Today's video is on how to evaluate a financial professional. And it comes from the question and just a conversation I had with a business colleague saying, Joel, I'm having a hard time evaluating. I don't know if this person's doing a good job or a bad job. We meet, but I don't know for sure. I just want to have a more consistent process. And I was like, all right, let's talk a little bit deeper about that. And I'm going to go at least through the way I evaluate it. So where did I got this from the CFA framework, Chartered Financial Analyst. It's a curriculum that helps a person get to that destination. And there's a section in there that is on evaluation. How do we evaluate your investment advisor? How do you evaluate your financial professional? And it's broken down into three pretty key areas. So the three key areas are process consistency, goal achievement, and portfolio performance. And each of these really has a process that you're either doing it with the financial professional, the financial professional is doing for you, or you have to do things by yourself, the DIY. So let's talk about these three and how each of those fits. The first element of evaluation is on the process consistency. And that can be any service model. It doesn't even matter what the industry is you just want to understand, if I need to get a hold of you first off, what's your numbers, what's your team, who are all the people that are going to be helping me out? And from there, go into, okay, how often are we going to be meeting? In our meetings, what are we going to be discussing? Are we going to meet over the phone? Are we going to meet in person? Those are the clear set of expectations you want to have with whoever you're working with. And then that goes into, well, there still has to be a deep element of understanding. And how do you understand what's going on with your life financially? You put together what's called either an investment policy statement or a financial plan, or some sort of combination of both. And what that is it's a written document of everything that's everything with your financial situation, your goals, your money, your balance sheet, all that kind of stuff. This gets gathered and understood deeply by the financial professional. And from there, you set a consistent meeting process. Meaning, and the meeting process can be as simple as this is where you're at now, here's what you have to do, and if anything in this changes, let us know. We got to work together and say on a quarterly basis, an annual basis of these are the changes that are going on in your financial life. Now, how do we evaluate that? If this first one's kind of just simply, are we doing this or are we not doing this? If we are, that's excellent. That means that both parties have a good understanding. The second one is goal achievement. A big part of a financial professional's job is to quantify the goal. And all that means is someone says, here's my money. I want to do, say, these 5 things. Can I do all 5 of these? Yes or no? And then the financial guy says, yes, you can do all 5. Or no, you can't do that, but if you make these changes, then you can. And it's like, what's most important to you? Let's work together on that. So quantifying goals, huge part. Now, what are they doing? They're working deeply in the 6 areas of finance, which I've got other videos on, but they just need to understand the variables, and then they're going to say, we've got to save taxes this way, we've got to invest it this way, we're doing all these things, and boom, yes, you can accomplish that goal. All right, and then it kind of just comes down to, like, one of the number one questions that is asked is, first off, you show me you have all this money, let's find the most appropriate way to enjoy the money. So if, say, you're retired, and you're using $5,000 a month from your account, and then we retrack 6 months later, it's like, okay, does that 5,000 look good? Awesome. Like, you got plenty of other money, or is there things you want to do? Great, let's give it to charity, let's buy a new house, whatever it might be. It's just helping you to enjoy the money at the fullest and maximum amount of benefit, and which is the funnest part of the job. And then the third is performance review. So performance review, and I'll make this simple. We'll start off with long-term investments. If you have a long-term investment and you want to know, how am I doing in this long-term investment? You can start off by, like, how is it against a benchmark? And a benchmark might be the S&P 500, the MSCI index, something like that. As long as you understand, like, hey, this is what a benchmark is, this is how it's gone up and down in value, and how is my portfolio going to compare to that? Now, with that being said, it is important to understand the investment philosophy that is being used. Because to say, for instance, like, we use an intrinsic value investment philosophy. So if we're in a high state of return and we're at the later stage of the business cycle and we decide, you know what, these stocks are quite a bit overvalued, we want to maybe take some of our gains and move them over to bonds. Well, now, even though we were tracking against the index long term, there could be periods of time, since we're now at, say, a 40% bond, 60% stock, that it's not going to be the same as the stock market up or down, but you're doing it because you want to try avoiding some of the down. So you just have to have a good understanding of the investment philosophy. And probably the most important is not necessarily like the return, but the expectations. Is because the expectations going forward, like, okay, you don't want to be like, you said you're going to be doing better than the market and we didn't do. Why is that? Is that, well, whatever's going on is based upon maybe your investment philosophy and the work that's behind the strategy. And the last one is an easy example of this be risk. So if I said long-term investments, now look at short-term investments. Short-term investments, you should not have any type of risk. So an S&P 500 is not the appropriate investment. If you need to use that money in the next 5 years, you should be looking at what are risk-free investments. And then to compare is like, all right, U.S. Treasuries giving, say, 3.5% or whatever the current rates are, all right, that's probably what you're going to get. If you're not getting it, one of the jobs of a financial professional is to maximize your cash. Get that money invested into something, even if it's a short-term investment. So the evaluation is just looking, how are you doing against the benchmark? And are you communicating me clearly on what type of investment philosophy you're using and the expectations I should have on the rates of return? So these are the three. For you, part of it really is mainly on the investment, because the professionals doing the day-to-day job of making sure the investments are in the right spot, buying and trading with needed. The goal achievement, you're doing it with you and doing it for you, and then do it with you and do it yourself. And the do it yourself really is the person needs to get all the data. If the financial professional doesn't have the data, they're not going to be able to do a good job. So I hope this helps. This is kind of a framework that can be used, and to understand that we're going to go through this, whether it's once a year, and we're checking the box on each of these things, then it can give you some peace of mind that yes, we're doing the right thing, we're keeping on track.